Have mercy. This is Billy F. Gibbons right here, and you're listening to AD on the radio.
Can't you see? Everyone! They're here already! You're next!
Let's go!
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born!
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So yesterday was International Women's Day. You know, it's always interesting, these situations. I don't know if you were part of A Day Without Women. I don't know if you were a supporter of A Day Without Women, but in these situations, you're always going to get some folks that go, hey. All these things. Black History Month. A Day Without Women. Special sort of considerations for minorities. These things do not represent equality. You want true equality, then you show up and you do equal work and blah, 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 blah. And you know what? There's a very logical, clear, concise thought pattern that drives that manner of thinking. And A Day Without Women, immediately a chorus springs up of, what if there was a day without men? Ha ha! And you know what? What if there was a day without men? Well, it would be a giant day off is what it would be. And did a day without women really accomplish anything? Would a day without men really accomplish anything? I don't know. Mine is not to judge. Mine is not to cast stones. Mine is not to claim that I understand the experience of something that I am not. But I do know that things like A Day Without Women, International Women's Day, Black History Month, exist for a couple different reasons, one of which is, well, as much as you might not be prejudiced, as much as you might not be racist, as much as you might truly live your life in a way that embraces equality, the playing field is not level yet. And it seems crazy that it's not. On issues of race, how is this even a question? And here I am, not racist, but also not aware. Not having an up-close and personal experience of inequality, except for when it happens to, like, my best friend standing next to me. When someone walks up to my buddy and says something that is openly racist, and I turn to him and go, that still goes on? And he's like, yeah, don't worry about it. Shocking to me, that still goes on. Shocking to me that the idea of inequality in the workplace for women still goes on. I guess what I'm saying is, I don't understand it because I'm not it. But I know that I love and respect women. I find them to be universally smarter and better than me at pretty much everything. And I think it is by nature of the fact that they are women. There's this idea of equality. I consider women to be my infinite superior when it comes to clear thinking. Most of the time. So what did I do? What did I do for Women's Day? Well, not a ton. I'm absolutely swamped. I didn't have time to attend a march. I didn't have time to do too much of anything. I didn't have time to show up to anything. So what did I do? I did something that was a little, a tertiary show of support was all I could manage. Got to get packed up, got to get all these things buttoned up so I can go be with my father in a foreign country for his heart surgery. I just couldn't afford the time out of the office to go do anything. So what did I do? I took a little picture of myself showing that I'd worn red in support. And I grabbed my favorite MCA quote, or one of my favorite MCA quotes. MCA of the Beastie Boys said the immortal words, "To all the mothers and the sisters and the wives and friends, I want to offer my love and respect to the end." Tiny little gesture of posting that online. And what blew me away was the number of females that messaged me privately and said, "Thank you. That meant a lot. Thank you. Thank you very much. This really means something. It's so amazing that you were counted." And here I am going, this is a relatively small gesture when it all comes down to it. What am I learning from this massive reaction? We'll get to that next.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KBRC, more stimulating talk radio.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So yesterday, International Women's Day. Man, I would have loved to have done a little bit more than I did. But look, life goes on. My father needs surgery. He lives in a foreign country. And I have a mountain of work I got to get done before I go away next week. So I didn't have time to do a whole lot. It was one of those instances where I wished I had, but reality is what it is. And I did something that I thought was, not a meaningless gesture. But like I said earlier, I did something very simple. I took the lyrics of the great MCA of the Beastie Boys, who said, "To the mothers and the sisters and the wives and friends, I want to offer my love and respect till the end." And I posted a little picture of myself showing that I'd worn red in support of International Women's Day. Not much action to take. Which is why I felt a little like, I could be doing more. I wish I had more time. I regretted the fact that I couldn't do more. But the reaction, the number of women that messaged me privately, and said, "Thank you for that," that meant a lot. And look, if you're one of those people that thinks, why do you need International Women's Day? What about a day without men? You might have a picture in your mind of the women that were messaging me saying, "Thank you for your support on this. This means a lot." This show attracts a broad cross-section of people that listen. People on the far right, people on the far left, people that are trying to live their life straight down the middle, people that don't assign themselves to a particular party, people of all races, religions, political persuasions listen to this show. And I consider that to be a huge victory. Because it's a simple narrative for simple people when you evangelize to a choir of the converted already and then cash in on their donation dollars, whether you're doing talk radio or whether you're doing religion. Where's the fun? Where's the challenge? Where's the conversation in that? Let's get into a room full of people that agree with me. No. I would like to be able to attract people from every single walk of life. And I do. And that's great. That's a real win. That's a victory for this show. But if you had a picture in your mind of the type of women who are messaging me saying, "Hey, thank you for that. Thank you. That means a lot." And if you think that perhaps they were folks that lean left, folks that are paint whatever sort of feminist stereotype you want to paint in your mind, whatever gets you through the day, if that's the way you think. You got that? You got that fixed in your head? You got the whiny feminist liberal picture fixed in your brain now? You got that? All right. Picture the exact opposite. That's who I was hearing from. Staunchly Republican, right-wing, red meat-eating, gun-toting women from the great state of Texas saying, hey, that was really cool. That meant a lot. Thank you. One woman said she was moved to tears by it. I was like, it's just I wore red, and I was thinking about you. I'm glad it worked for you. And she was like, you don't understand what it means to have a member of the media. I was like, that's going a little far. She's like, nevertheless, you don't understand what it means to have a member of the media acknowledge that things might be a little bit different for females than they are for males. Which seems like such a simple, obvious, easy thing to say. Things are a little different. Things are a little tougher for females than they are for males. Seems like, duh. Well, I mean, that's kind of well established. It's part of the narrative. But she was like, you don't have any idea how much that means to have you stand up in that way. And just acknowledge it. And what kind of blew my mind was this reaction. And what did I learn from it? Well, it was an excellent reminder. It was an excellent reminder because I didn't think for one tiny second that my tiny little gesture would be meaningful the way it was. I was truly taken aback. And when I got into a bit of a deeper conversation with some of the people that said they appreciated it, what was really hammered home to me is that as much as intellectually I can go, hey, women are awesome, things aren't fair for them, I'd like to stand up and be counted as someone goes, things could be better for women. The extent of what it is like to live when you're not me, when you're not somebody that hit the genetic lottery, when you're not a white male born in America, kind of lost on me. And I think what I really took from it, what I learned from it, what I was reminded of by it, was the fact that everybody, whether they are that white male like me that hit the genetic lottery and are living in America, whether it's a woman, whether it's some sort of minority, someone a different color than you, a race or religion, everybody's going through something that you don't understand. And it's a good idea to keep that in mind and maybe try and understand a little bit more.
Real radio.
104.1.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on.
Yeah, alrighty then, Funkhauser. How you been? How's everything going? What is new?
My microphone sounds good now.
It does.
The gremlins are gone.
Maybe a little better than mine.
I've been sick for like 2 weeks, man. And you know, the bravado is in there now. And I kind of like it. Yeah.
Did you get a new microphone, or are you talking into a microphone that has sort of like sickness and germs from the last couple of weeks? Are you basically speaking into that radio station's community condom of a microphone?
No. I had one of those dorky engineers get under the hood and fix everything. So everything smells like Lysol in here.
I love it when the Neo Maxi Zoom dweebies do what they're supposed to do. That's awesome. Hey, I guess before we get to the news, I guess we should talk a little bit about what's happening over the next week or so, right? Should we?
Yeah, we're taking it up a level.
Well,
going on the road.
I'm hitting the road. I'm going to be out for the next week. If maybe you've listened to the show, maybe you heard me talk about this a little bit in the past, but my dad lives in a foreign country, lives overseas, needs a procedure done, a procedure that it is imperative that I'm there for. especially because he's living in a foreign country where he doesn't, he's got some friends and stuff, but he certainly doesn't have family there. So I will be headed on an errand of familial duty and a desire to be with my pops for the next week or so. He currently lives in Austria, which should be cool. Like Austria, Vienna, one of the most beautiful cities in the world from what I've heard. I've been to Austria before. Don't think I've ever really spent any real time in Vienna, maybe the inside of an airport or something like that. But I'm excited for that part. And look, I've gotten some really nice emails and messages from people that have offered up their support, their thoughts, their prayers. And I cannot explain to you how awesome that is. We talk about being part of a radio family here every single day. And, excuse me. Well, you have these moments. You have these moments in your life where that becomes real, where it's not just an idea, and where you feel love and support. Every single day I get on the air, and I try and keep you company and share some news and some laughs and some conversation and maybe even some music sometimes. But mostly what I'm there to do is, when you need it, give you the company that you want. Make you feel like someone is thinking about you, cares about you, has your back. And we might not have met face to face. We might not have had a chance to shake hands. But every single day, whether it's this station or any other, 15 and counting that I'm on at the moment, when I crack the mic and I'm talking, I'm always thinking about you, who you are, what your day was like, what you're doing, what you're going through, what your struggles might be, what you might be celebrating. So I'm always thinking of you. And I always have your back. And I'm on your side. But the show of support that I've gotten from people about my trip to go see my dad, yeah, man, I could not tell you how intensely meaningful that is, because I care about you, and it's really nice to feel it reciprocated. It's very cool. Thank you very much. Now,
you are coming back, right?
I am. I'm coming back. You know what? Honestly, this might sound a little bit more emotional than it actually is, just because, here's the deal. No, here's the deal. To go away for a week in radio, you have to basically kill yourself to get there. I've been up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning programming radio stations for the last week and a half, trying to clear space for all this stuff. And it's I am running on fumes at the moment. Sleep, pshaw, none of the best guys do it. So if I sound a little bit more overly emotional, then perhaps I should call it sleep deprivation. But look, is this a real thing? Yeah, I wouldn't be dropping everything and going to a foreign country and doing what I'm doing if this wasn't a very real situation. So there is that. And for that reason, I really appreciate all your support. But the other side of the thing is that, if this procedure goes well for my pops, which it should, there will be a significant upside to the quality of his life, which is awesome news. So that's what's going to be going on for the next week and a day, I think. I think that's how long I'm taking off, for a week and a day. But while we will be running some best of the show, I'm also going to be checking in, sending Funkhauser pieces of audio, sort of like my travel diaries. You will. I'm attempting to be the Anthony Bourdain of radio as I take it to Austria and figure this out. So I'm going to be checking in, but FYI, just so you know, so there's an explanation of what's been going on and what is going on, just so you're not going, hey man, where'd he go? Why am I? What? This is a great interview with Brandon Boyd from Incubus, but haven't I heard it before? If you're wondering that is the dealio. That's what's going on. So I'll be back as soon as my dad gets back up in the game after his procedure, and I can't wait to tell you all about it as I go. So that's where we're at, and I wanted to cover that. I didn't want to run out of time and try and cram all that information into the tail end of the show. I wanted to discuss that right out the gate. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of my radio family. It's not just something we say. It's something that I feel every day toward you. And those times where I feel it back, well, just makes me feel that much more privileged that we hang out and do what we do every single day. All righty then, Funkhauser. There we go. Let's do a little bit of news.
Fine. New research suggests that the brain can be rewired to make better choices.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And look, have you ever heard of this idea of, what is it, neuro-linguistic programming?
No.
Do you know?
Sounds
Oh,
fancy.
really? It is fancy. This is that Anthony Robbins guy. I know a whole bunch of people that have done his course, and the idea is that you kind of like reprogram your brain to, do different things. And I don't know how this is different to that per se. But basically, this is groundbreaking research in the field of neuroscience that manipulates the brain's reward system. It's an interesting one. Like, you get a little hit of specific reward chemicals like dopamine when you do things like check Facebook and see that somebody liked your comment or something like that. Or you get a little hit of dopamine sometimes when you're doing something like gambling or drinking. And, a little bit of that is good, but too much is obviously a bad thing. But basically, this is my idiot 10th grade science class educated brain is kind of leaning toward what this does is it rewires your brain. So dopamine is released into your system. You get that little reward for making a good choice instead of a poor choice, meaning that you can make your brain make it so you feel really good about turning down that candy bar or that drink or that risky sexual encounter. So yeah, new research suggests that the brain can be rewired to make better choices. To which Charlie Sheen replied, "Now you tell me." Go on.
A new study says Americans are having less sex.
Not me. Oh, wait. Do they mean with another person? If so, then yes.
Same.
Does that count? Yeah, probably not. I mean, you got to consider the source, though. New study says Americans are having less sex, or so says a study by scientists who are just upset that they're not getting any. Go on.
Fake news. Research shows having regular sex makes you more likely to get a promotion.
Oh, well.
So that's why.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to be doing 3 to 7 for the rest of my freaking life. So, yeah, there you go. You could either sleep your way to the top, even though it doesn't have to be with someone in your office, apparently. Just like the act of having sex makes you more confident. Makes you. There's some science behind this, and I'll try and dig it up in just a little bit because it's actually fascinating stuff. But yeah, you could either sex your way to the top, or you could follow my example and fap your way to the middle. Go on.
President Trump surprised a group of school children doing a White House tour.
Oh, there you go. That's cool. Embracing the children. The children are the future. That's something that will stay with them forever. They're going to go down in history. Also, I believe President Trump likes doing that sort of thing just because he likes to be around folks that make his hands look like they're normal size. There you go. Go on.
President Trump says he wants Americans to get off welfare.
Especially now that he no longer needs contestants for Celebrity Apprentice. Look, here's the thing. That one speech that he gave, that joint address, which was essentially a State of the Union thing in disguise. But and you're not supposed to have a State of the Union until you've been president for longer, but it morphed into that. That was what a lot of people, even Donald Trump's biggest detractors, are calling his first presidential moment. That's when people that couldn't stand Donald Trump went, at that point, he became the president of these United States of America, leader of the free world, and possibly a guy that could win for 2 terms. And this is people that do not care for the guy. And look, it's a very interesting blanket statement to say you want Americans to get off of welfare. That would be great. What that entails, who knows? But this whole sort of economic nationalism thing that he's talking about. And look, when you hear something like nationalism, for me, the word nationalism sets off alarm bells. It's that old adage. Why are you taking pride in your nationality? Is this really where you get a good sense of yourself from? The fact that you won the genetic lottery, you live in America, does that make you more of accomplished of an individual than someone that was born, 50 miles to the south if you're living near the border? Nationalism, it's great to have pride, it's great to be patriotic. But nationalism to me is an idea that encourages people to take credit for things that they didn't do. It's great to go, our founding fathers said this, or we fought for freedom, or at the Alamo this happened. But, we're not the people doing that stuff. To me, nationalism is taking away from people's get up and go. Blaze your own trail. Do your own thing. Don't fall back on the accomplishments of George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. But this idea of economic nationalism, look, first and foremost, nationalism carries a stigma with it, as we discussed. Second of all, nationalism, things like the National Front tend to be associated with white supremacy groups. When you hear nationalism, it has a spiky, scary connotation to it. It's not patriotism. It's not loving your country. It's something that, just in terms of the way that word has been used, has become a little bit more chagrined over the years. However, this idea of economic nationalism that Donald Trump is talking about, while it's got people up in arms, do you know what CanCon is, Funkhauser? CanCon is what they got going on in Canada. CanCon means that, who got in trouble for not towing the economic nationalism line in Canada? Bryan Adams. Remember him? Summer of 69 dude? So he's Canadian, and when you are a Canadian artist, there are rules. There must be a certain number of Canadian musicians on your album. And he got in trouble because he had too many Americans in his band, and he was just like, "This is crazy. This breeds mediocrity. This is stupid." But at the same time, it means things like there will be a certain percentage of Canadian music on the radio in Canada. Did you know that? That's a thing that exists? Yeah. Like if you're a Canadian radio station, there is an amount of music on your radio station that must be Canadian.
A lot of countries do that.
Yeah, if you are an employee of the BBC in England, chances are you got to be English. Because for the longest time, I grew up in England. I love, I love the idea of going back and being on Radio 4 or something like that at some point in my, the sarcastic air quotes around this word, career. And probably never going to happen. I talked to some friends in England about it. They're like, yeah, you're never going to get a job for the BBC. I was like, why? They're like, you're American. They hire English. That's economic nationalism. And look, who knows what Trump and Bannon's version of economic nationalism looks like. But in terms of wanting to get Americans off welfare, with little context, that sort of thing might help to get that done.
Real radio. Real radio.
104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Oh! Apparently we've poked a bit of a hornet's nest, Funkhauser.
What happened?
Well, the idea of President Trump wanting to get Americans off of welfare. A couple of immediate reactions. Some people saying he wants to cut benefits and let people starve in the street. That sort of vibe. Other people saying, yes, Americans need to get off welfare. This is a fantastic thing. What's it going to look like? Well, we don't know. We don't know. But here's one thing about welfare. It exists in places it shouldn't right now. And if there's things that can be done to get Americans off welfare, then bazinga. Freaking great. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, whether or not you are someone that's ever been on welfare or not. This is why it's important to have less people on welfare. You might be one of those people that goes, hey, these lazy, indolent folks are sitting around suckling off government teat. They're taking my tax dollars and using it to buy things that they shouldn't be buying. You didn't like minimum wage, so F it, you quit. But you still have an iPhone. Well, that seems legit. See what I did there? That's a little bit of urban poetry I came up with about the idea of welfare. Not bad, right? There's that thought. And look, not excusing people that take advantage of the situation in the system. But if you really want to look at a situation where your tax dollars are being factored into somebody else's business plan, there are numerous employees in America that pay people a full-time wage. Pay people a full-time wage that is small enough to where they are still eligible for government subsidies, for some sort of welfare, for some sort of social program. Now, what does that mean? That means that there are employers in America whose names may or may not rhyme with schmalschmart, that factor your hard work, your sweat, into their business plan. When a company is paying someone little enough to where they can still collect benefits and still be considered full-time, but still be eligible for food stamps, what that company is doing is reaching directly into your pocket, going, hey, we're going to exploit. This shouldn't be allowed. This shouldn't be allowed. You're never going to get away with this. Oh, watch, we're going to get away with this. Oh, it's got to be great. What we're going to do, right? What we're going to do is we're going to trim every last expense we can. We're going to pay people so little that they're going to be able to subsidize their income with things like food stamps. That's what we're going to do. Our full-time employees. No, you're crazy, because that means we would essentially have taxpayer money written into our business plan. We're not. Don't be silly. You can't do that. We are not. We're not the government. We can't sort of like when we're doing our business plan at the beginning of every fiscal year, factor in the taxpayers' money to keep us up and running. That's crazy talk. They'll never let that happen. Watch, they will. And it did. And it does. And it continues. And so this is why I love the idea of getting Americans off welfare. Look, if you are somebody that is asking for $15 an hour to work at a fast food joint, well then, I'm not the person. I've never worked at a fast food restaurant. I've had many a terrible job, but fast food wasn't necessarily one of them. And if you do fast food and you love it, and I'm not casting aspersions on your job either. But if you are doing that and you feel like you're owed $15 an hour, well, I'm not in any position to place a value on the work that you do. I don't know what your life looks like. I don't know how much blood, sweat, and tears you put into your employer's business. The one thing I can tell you is that, and it's already happening, we discussed it the other day, folks like Wendy's going like, $15 an hour seems like a lot. Can we replace them with machines? Burger kiosks? Oh, look, we can. It's sort of like burgers from an ATM. We've got it in some places. We're going to be getting it in more, and that will speed up the ordering experience. And then, oh, wait, we won't have to pay people and benefits. And fantastic. So it falls to you to figure out what you've got to offer the world that is unique, that cannot be replaced by a burger kiosk. It's all well and good stamping your feet, asking for $15 an hour to do what it is you do. But if your employer can find a way to do without you after that pay hike, well, then you're left in an extraordinarily disadvantaged place. So the idea of getting Americans off welfare is fantastic to me. And if that entails getting Americans off welfare to the point where welfare is no longer a part of a crony business plan that exploits your hard work, where a massive company builds your tax dollars, your blood, your sweat, your tears into their bottom line by paying somebody little enough that they can be a full-time employee and still be on welfare, well then, I'm all for that. And look, as you and I have discussed in the past, I'm not a Trump fan. I'm not a fan of any politician. I believe in accountability. I believe in strength of character, and I find the vast majority of politicians to be completely bankrupt of those two qualities. However, economic nationalism, hire American, buy American, well then, that could actually get Americans off of welfare and return us to a place that is a little bit more fair, where less of your hard work was pilfered by someone that was abusing the system. And by someone, I mean a massive company that has factored your dynamite work ethic into their success, even though they've never paid you a red cent. All right, more news, Funkhauser. What else? Let's continue with this, shall we?
Where did we leave off? Bidding on Barack Obama's memoirs reached $50 million.
$50 million for Barack Obama's memoir. Wow. Meanwhile, anyone interested in what Ben Carson has to say can simply listen to the average hobo rambling at a bus stop. I don't get it. The guy's a freaking genius. I just don't understand some of the words that come out of his mouth. And by some, I mean almost none ever. Go figure.
Real radio.
104.1.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
Oh, Funkhauser. We will continue the news in just a little bit. But you know what I realized I'm doing? What? I'm getting on a plane in the not-too-distant future. Yeah. I'm getting, America, the west coast of America, which I'm on at the moment, to Austria is... All right, so let me just break it down for you. Let's break down the international air travel situation. It's a 23-hour journey. It's a 23-hour journey. I had an option of making it like a 14-hour journey or 16-hour journey, but that involved going through Istanbul, which that's gotten a little icy up in there. Like my dad, who was living in Kosovo for a long time, was thinking of going to get his procedure done in Istanbul in Turkey. I was like, Dad, the political climate there, I know the doctors aren't great in Kosovo, and I know for whatever reason there's like a really cool medical facility that's very up in the game in Istanbul. But do you really think with the current political climate, it's a wise move to go there for your thing? And my dad is kind of an international man of mystery. Like he's a guy that has always thrived on knowing what's going on in the world and being a part of it, in the mix, in the fray. He finds his work meaningful, and he does make a tremendous difference in many, many people's lives, and that's awesome. But he's also incredibly bold when it comes to these situations. Like when he's in a lousy city where things are being blown up every fortnight or so, every other week, he just likens it to being in Manhattan in the early 80s. He's like, there's just streets you don't walk down. But he was going to go get his procedure done in Istanbul. And I was like, Dad, and he's like, it's fine. There's just be streets you don't walk down. And then that ISIS bombing happened at the Istanbul airport. I think it was a bombing. It was some act of terror. Isn't it horrendous how this all blends together at the moment? And something horrific, some act of terror happened at the Istanbul airport. And he's like, so no Istanbul. And when I was plotting out my flight, I was like, Dad, you're a little bit more in touch with the feeling in Europe. I'm looking at two flights here. One goes through Istanbul, the other one does not. And he was like, no going to Turkey on this trip. So there's that. But I'm gonna be getting on a plane and taking. I think on the way there it's like a 23-hour journey. On the way back it's a 30-hour journey. I have like a 12-hour layover in Reykjavik or something like that. So I'm going to be. I will have an extended up close and experience of airline travelers. And look, on an international flight where you're going to be sitting still for an awfully long time, you hope that the person sitting next to you is not. Okay. I had this one experience once. I was young. It was right before the band really kicked off, and I was flying. I was a teenager. I can't remember where I was flying. I was flying to and from England and America. And I get into this one seat. And it's in a in an aisle. I got an aisle seat, which is cool. And then there's all these open seats next to me, like 4 or 5 of them. I was like, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be awesome. I'm going to get a row to myself. I will be sleeping the whole way. This is going to be fantastic. This is going to be amazing. And then some last minute stragglers start to get onto the plane. And I kid you not, on the plane, headed toward me, bearing in mind there's a row of empty seats next to me, and I'm a teenager. Who do you think gets on the plane, Funkhauser?
A baby?
No. A Swedish women's volleyball team. I know. I was like, well, on the one hand, it would be nice to have a space to lie down. That would be fantastic. I would love that. But,
on the other hand,
yeah, it seems as though Inga would be a great person to sit next to and talk about spiking balls for a 12-hour trip. That seems A-okay to me. I'm just like, wow, I've hit the teenage lottery. I'm going to be making time with a women's Swedish volleyball team across continents. This will be great. And
was it great?
Well, the women's Swedish volleyball team walked right by me and went to several rows back where I could not see, look, or communicate with them. And I'm like, well, I guess I get the row to myself. And all of a sudden, family of 4 walks down. And the father, who, by the way, we had long conversations. He's nice as pie. The father sits next to me. The father is a large individual. The father is, and it's not just to say he was fond of a ham sandwich. He unquestionably was, but he was a really, really big guy. Not just a chunky individual, but kind of didn't fit in the seat level guy, like huge. He was just a wide guy with big shoulders and big arms, and there was no way he could fit properly in the seat. He had to have one of those extender seat belts around him, and where they add one because he's just such a big dude. And so that's what's sitting next to me on a 12-hour flight. And he sits down next to me. He's like, I feel really self-conscious because of my size. I'm sorry. And I'm like, hey man, it's cool. And he was like, if I fall asleep and I wind up elbowing you or something, just tap me or what have you. And we actually had a really, really nice chat. It wound up being a cool conversation. It was not the glorious aisle. It was not the glorious aisle to myself that I was hoping to get, and it did not turn out to be quality time with a Swedish women's volleyball team. It was a guy who was spilling over his seat and into mine, and I'm just as nice as that guy was. I'm praying I don't wind up in that situation when I'm on my 24-hour plus journey to see my dad in Austria.
I have been on the road for the last 5 months. I don't know, man. I just really thinking the worst of people. Really am. You see some of the animals. Some of the animals I see. Like, I was in the airport the other day, right? I'm sitting there waiting for my flight, just hating my life. And watching this lady, she's eating Egg McMuffins, like plural. It just threw like 3 of them right down her throat, like a pelican, just like right down her throat. And when she was done, she wiped her face with the bag. With the bag. Not even like a gentleman, like, no, just through the corners and she just got a straight razor shave. She's an absolute animal. I saw this other dude, he was so out of shape, he was like trying to itch his back and he couldn't reach it. So he walked up to a support pole that was holding up an entire floor of the airport and just walks up and he just starts like rubbing up against it. Like a grizzly bear. Just sitting there. Just a animal. Dude, I am so pro swine flu, it's like ridiculous. I want it. We need a plague. I'm telling you, we need a plague. It's gotta happen. And don't be afraid. It's only gonna kill the weak. You know? Seriously, put on a sweater, take some vitamins. You're gonna be fine. You gotta let Mother Nature do her thing, man. She keeps trying to help us out, and we won't let her do it. Keeps trying to thin the herd every single time. We're like, oh, go down and get your vaccination. Why? So Egg McMuffin lady can breed with the back fat guy, you know?
the great Bill Burr on the people that I'm going to be meeting on my journey. This is why I'll be checking in periodically, Funkhauser, because I'm curious to see what, I've had layovers in Europe before, but I think one of the places I'm going to be is Denmark. Ooh. Yeah, that should be fun. I think, if you're going to kill 12 hours in a place, Denmark isn't a bad spot.
Are you on Snapchat?
I am on Snapchat.
Do you do that thing when you're on vacation?
No, but I've been told that I need to.
That would be a reason, I think.
I was told by one of the big programming muckety mucks around here is that, you know what, you're so open with your life, you're so open, you are a true friend to the people that listen to you on the radio, and when you go away on vacation or when you go away to a foreign country, people want to know what's up. If they're not getting you on the air, they want to know what is going on. So yeah, I'll do my very best. Do my very best to update you on Snapchat and Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. At ADSXE is where you can tweet me, or you can email me, ad@iheartradio.com, or you can, at ADSXE is also my Instagram, and just to make things interesting, AD on the radio is my Snapchat, because ADSXE wasn't available. I can't believe there's somebody else that went for that, but they did. Boo. So, yeah. All right, Funkhauser, what else?
Phil Collins' daughter Lily wrote him an open letter forgiving him for the mistakes he made.
Yeah, I heard about that. She forgave him for not being there for her. Phil Collins' daughter Lily forgave Phil Collins publicly for not being there for her, for making her the child of divorce, and also I think for never explaining what the hell the word susudio means, but there you go.
I know what it means, but I can't say it on the radio. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you? Really?
Uh-huh.
Dance around it in an FCC-friendly way.
Nope. You're going to have to research it yourself there. Took me a long time to figure it out.
It was an interview with Phil Collins. What says, stumbled through telling you what it was.
Hold on.
And honestly, I don't remember at this point.
What does susudio mean?
Ooh, to Google. Maybe it's a Denmark word for, I don't know.
It doesn't mean anything. According to this, the
internet says no.
The internet says, hold on. Let's this is a good song.
Mm-hmm.
I really like this song. According to the internet, Susudio was sort of a placeholder. He was making a demo, and he was just sort of scat singing. So he's like Susudio, and he couldn't come up with another word that sounded as good as Susudio did. Susudio did in the demo. Sorry, the video's like a short film. I'm trying to play it.
Oh, great song to talk up too.
Oh yeah, man.
Oh,
what a great suit he's wearing.
Yeah.
He's got that 80s like 80s balding mullet thing that was totally acceptable then, but not now. So I guess the implication there is that there's a girl called Susu Studio or Sue or Studio, but the main lyric came about as Collins was improvising lyrics to a drum machine track he had programmed. Susudio was a word that scanned well. After trying to find an alternative word to fit the rhythm, the singer decided to keep Susudio as the title and the lyrics. So it's a made-up scat word by Phil Collins. There you go. Now you know. It didn't mean something dirty the way you thought, Funkhauser.
You think there are girls out there named Susudio at this point?
You know, our friend Christian James Hand that comes on the show sometimes is a record producer, but he started, and he's a storyteller, and he's a radio host, and he's all these things, but he started off as a drummer, and Phil Collins is his drum god. I think he cried when he got a chance to interview Phil Collins. It was a big deal. I think he's got Phil Collins' signature tattooed on his back. He's a fan. So if our friend Christian James Hand ever has an opportunity to reproduce and has a girl, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he names his kid Susudio.
Oh, that's funny.
Go on.
Hold on. Where are we at here? Netflix added Nacho Libre, This Is Spinal Tap, and The Waterboy this month.
And in honor of Ben Carson, it changed the name of Roots to Dreamy-Eyed Immigrants. Oh, my gosh.
He sounds like Michael Jackson. He must be taking
it's the
same
weirdest
drugs.
thing. It's the weirdest thing. It is the weirdest thing that, Ben Carson compared slavery to dreamy-eyed immigration, which is what he did. Go on, one more piece of news, Funkhauser.
Jon Stewart says the media needs to quit whining about Donald Trump.
When Jon Stewart says it, maybe the liberal media will pay attention. He then faded into a blue haze like a progressive Jedi. Hey, thank you so much for hanging. Thank you for being a part of my radio family. I'll be back when I'm back in like a week or so. And man, you rule. Thank you so much.